Hey guys, Saion Gupta here, founder of 10x Coder Kids and an official Guinness record holder for the youngest computer programmer in the world. And today we are going to be solving a Google interview question that is really tough. But I'm going to make it easy for you. So without any delay, let's get started. Alright, here is our question. Basically, what we are given a big string, right? And we are given a small string. The small string will always be smaller than the big string. Now, what do we need to do? We need to find all the combinations, permutations, and combinations of ABC that are there in big string. So for example, ABC, here this is CBA, right? So there's one combination of ABC. Then we can say this is BAB, this will not be counted. Then we can see it is ABC itself. So there are two combinations of ABC. Now then we see BCA, that is also a combination of ABC. So there are three combinations. Then there is CAC, that's not a combination. ACA is not a combination. CAB is a combination. So there are four combinations. Then there is ABC, that is a combination. So five combinations. And then there is BCA. So in overall, we see six combinations of ABC inside of big string, right? So we have to find out that number, right? Very cool. So let's start coding, right? So it's basically a 25 line code, so it's not that tough. First of all, what we'll do, as strings are mutable, we are going to convert the string into a array, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to do small string is equal to small string dot split, right? So we are going to say small string is equal to small string dot split, right? So what this will do, this will split all the characters. So what we will have in small string, it will be like A, B, C, right? So this is this is now our small string, right? Now what we are going to do, we are going to create a variable temp, right? That is equals to small string that we are going to use further after when we go further in the program, right? So for now we are just creating a temporary variable that we are going to use further, right? Why? Because we are be going to manipulating the small string, right? So then we have to revert it to its original self, so that's why we have to basically create a temp variable also. Next, we will create a variable answer in which it's an array where we are going to basically store all the combinations, not exactly the combinations, something else, right? But answers length will be our answer, right? So answers length will be 6 in this case, right? So I'm just going to show you, once you look at the logic, then you're going to understand what is happening. Next, what we are going to do, we are going to create a function check distinct. So what this function will do, this will check for repetition of elements in our array, right? So it will take in an array and this will basically check for any repetition of elements, right? And it will return false if there is a repetition, and it will return true if there isn't a repetition. All right. So what we'll do, we'll just loop for variable I is equals to 0, I less than array dot length, whatever array is passed dot length, I plus plus, right? And what we are going to do, we are going to say if array dot index of array I, so it's if its index is not equals to I, right? And then we are going to return false. So I'm just going to explain this in a second, or after completing this we are going to return true. So what we are doing, we are taking the index of the current element, right? And when we are looping, so what is happening basically, let me just explain. We can have 2 1 2, maybe this is our array. So its index of first, it will check if array i's index, what it is, right? So it's 0 and that is equals to I, so it won't return false. then it goes 1. One's index is 1 itself, right? So then also it won't go here. But index of checks from the left. So when it reaches this 2, right, and then when it checks the index of this 2, it will actually get this index because it is checking from the left, right? So that means there is a repetition of elements. So that's how it's deciding whether there is a repetition or not. Pretty creative way, I'll say, of checking distinct elements, right, using the index, right? So I hope you understood that part, so we can move forward. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create a normal for loop, right? We're going to say variable I equals 0, I less than big string dot length minus small string dot length plus 1. Now what we are doing here, you are going to understand when we reach the code inside the loop, right? So just bear with me for a second. What we'll do, we'll create a small array, right? And we're going to say for variable j is equal to 0 and j is less than small string dot length. So we are going to loop on a small string and j plus plus, right? And what we are going to say, we are going to say small array dot push small string dot index of big string I plus j, right? So I'm just going to explain you this in a second. And then we are going to say small string dot index of big string I plus j is equals to empty string. I'm just going to explain you this in a second. Now if small array, okay, first let's just understand this, then I'm going to understand make you understand further. So what was happening, first of all, this, now this is related to this loop. Now why do we have to loop like big string dot length minus small string dot length plus 1? First all right, so basically over here we are adding j is looping on small string, so we are looping on small string, so it will first be 0, then 1, then 2. When we add j to I, right, if we are not decreasing small strings dot length, for example we did not do this, right, let's just take that. So when it reaches over here, it will try to increment 0, that won't be a problem. Then it will try to increment 1 in it, and when it will check an element after this, it won't find any element, right? So it will lead to an error that there's no element after this, still we are trying to access that element, right? So that will lead to an error, right? So we to basically we our loop, what will happen, it will just loop till here, right? No, till here, till b, it will loop till b because we're doing plus 1 also, right? So basically big string dot length, it is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Small string is your 3. So 11 minus 3, 8. So 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? If we did not add 1, it would have just gone till the a element, right? And it wouldn't have checked this case. So we have to add 1 so that it checks in the end this case also, right? That's why we are adding 1 to after doing big string dot length minus small string dot length plus 1, right? So I hope it's clear why we are subtracting small strings length and why we are adding 1. Next, small array. What does our small array have, right? Now let's try to understand what does our small array have. For that, let's just see this loop. So we are looping on small string, right? That is now our array, as we converted it to an array using the split method. Now, as you can see in this line, we are somehow basically manipulating small string, right? So that's why we created a temporary variable. Why? Because we are manipulating the small string at a certain point for the next, like for this case, once it checks, we also have to have our small string back so that it checks for this case, then it checks for this case, right? So for that, our small string, we need that, right? So in a temporary variable, we have saved it so that after manipulating the small string and working with the small string, we are changing it into its original self, right? So for that, we have temp. Now what we are doing, we are looping for variable g equals to 0, j less than small string dot len j plus plus. And what are we pushing on small array, right? So we are saying small string dot index of, right? So we are taking out the index of big string I plus j. To understand that, let's just say I equals to 0, it goes into the loop. It takes in basically small array, right? Small array equals to empty array, right? It creates a new small array, it goes in this loop, j is equals to 0. Then what it is doing, it's saying small array dot push small string dot index of big string I plus j. I is 0 right now, j is 0. Big string 0 is basically c, right? That its index we are checking in small string, that is 2, right? And that we are pushing in small array. So over here in the first iteration, 2 will be pushed in our small array, right? And also wherever it found 2 on basically sorry, wherever it found c in small string, that is on the second index, there it is basically doing that empty string. Now why do we need to do it empty string? For example, your strong small string was abcb, not abc, abcb. Then this over, okay, I'm just going to explain that part to you once we write further the code, because its explanation lies there only, right? Pretty cool. So over here we just are doing empty string for now. Just say like our small string was abc, so we are saying ab, right? Now our small string is ab and then an empty string. Its length is still 3, but wherever it found c, we are basically changing that to empty string, right? Very cool. Now comes the interesting part. Now after this, okay, so first let's see what all small array has first. So I is 0, j is 0, right? So j, when j was 0, 2 was pushed in small array, then j is 1. So I is still 0, so big string 1 is b, and then its index is 1, right? And that is being pushed, so 1 is being pushed, right? And then it finds a, right? Its index is 0, so 0 is being pushed. So after this loop, small array has 2, 1 and 0, right? Small array contains 2, 1 and 0. Next, what we are going to do, we are going to say if small array dot index of -1 is equals to -1. Now what does this mean? Basically the index of method returns like basically returns to you -1 whenever it does not find a certain element. For example, let's say d. So when it will check for d, it will find that there is no d in small string, right? So that's why it will return -1. So first of all, we are checking if there are no -1s in a small array, meaning if there are no such elements that actually do not occur in small string only, right? So in this combination, in the first combination, we are checking if there is no element that actually does not even occur in small string. We are first checking for that, right? So this is basically checking, we are basically checking that if -1 does not exist. So how are we checking? We are taking the index of -1, right? So if -1 will exist, it will give an index of that element. But if it does not exist, it will return -1. So we are checking if it does not exist. And now we are going to use a check distinct method. Check distinct small array, right? So we are checking that if all of the elements in small array are distinct. Now why are we doing that? For example, when it checks for this case BAB, so what will small array have? A small array have? It will have it will have 1, 0 and 1, right? So there is a repetition. So this is not, BAB is not an instance of ABC, right? BAB is not a combination or permutation of ABC, right? So that's why we are saying check distinct small array, right? And then what we are doing, we are just pushing small array dot join. Small array is an array, we are joining that, right? So it is converted into a string now. Or we didn't even have to do that, we could have just pushed small array, right? Sorry about that. And then we are saying small string equals to temp. Dot is the spread operator that is basically spreading the array, right? So it's spreading the contents of the array, and that we are saving in an array, right? So if you think about it, this was our code, but now this line we have still not understood what this line is doing. As I was explaining, what we have A B C B. So first it checks this case. Now over here, let's see, it finds C. Its index over here is 2. So 2 will be pushed in small array. Then it finds B. Its index will be 1. So 1 will be pushed. Then it finds A. Its index will be 0. So 0 will be pushed. Then it finds B, and when we do index of B in this, it will give 2. So sorry, 1. So when 1 will be pushed, then as you can see, there is a repetition. So like this one and this one, they are repeating. That's why we had to do the check distinct thing, and that's why we are always whatever we find, we are doing it empty string. So it finds C, we are changing C into an empty string. It finds B, we are changing B into an empty string, so that when it checks the index of B once again, it does not find it over here but over here, and then there is no repetition in this, right? So then it will be 2103, and this will be declared as a permutation or combination of this, right? So that's why we had to change basically our whatever element we find that into an empty string, and then afterwards we have already saved the original small string in a temporary array, right? So afterwards we are basically changing small string into its original self, right? So I hope you understood the code, guys. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Finally, what we have to do, we just have to say console.log answer.length, and that will be our question solved. So if we get, let's just see what is logged out. It should be logged out 6, right? So 6 was our answer. 6 is logged out. I hope you guys like the video. If you did, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. Thank you guys. Bye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching my videos.